Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis, right at the top. Ton Rabbanon Hamarabeya Eseir. If one squares off the city, Oisa Kimin Tavla Murubas. So first he squares off the city and he makes it like a square. So if he has a round city, if the city is round, then he squares it off so that he gains the corners. So we'll see in the Gemara that we're talking about a city that is 2,000 amas diameter. The diameter is 2,000 amas. That means that from one end to the other is 2,000 amas. From one end to each direction, in any direction, is 2,000 amas. So the first thing he does is he takes it and he squares it off. So he makes it a square. He draws lines across it. So he gains the corners. So he gains these corners, and therefore the city is extended out. So when he measures the 2,000 amas, he doesn't measure the 2,000 amas from here. He measures it from here, from the corner. He measures it from the corner. So the first thing is to take the round circle, the round city, the round circle, and square it off, draw lines across it. So before he measures 2,000 amas from the city, he first makes the city into a square. And then what he does is, so now he has to measure the 2,000 amas. So he has the city which is squared off. Now he measures 2,000 amas. So he measures 2,000 amas in this direction and this in each direction, and therefore he makes a 2,000 amas from this square. So therefore he'll have a square of 2,000 amas. Let's call this the west. Let's call this the east, and the north, and the south. So he measures 2,000 amas from here. So from this square, so he's measuring 2,000 amas. From here he measures from the square 2,000 amas in this direction and this direction. So now he has a city that's been squared off. It's a circle that's been squared off, that has been squared off. So now this city now measures 2,000 amas by 2,000 amas, and he measures 2,000 amas in each direction. Now you have the corners. So where does he walk from? He can go here and here. What about in these directions? Now, as we'll see, you can't measure 2,000 amas from here to here, because if you measure 2,000, the actual distance from here to this corner is 2,800 amas. If you measure 2,000 amas, you won't have a complete square. You'll end up over here. The diagonal is 1.4 more than the straight line. So if this is 2,000 amas from the circle till here, and from the circle till here, from the circle till from the squared off circle to the corner here is 2,800 amas. So you have to then, what you do next is, so you don't measure 2,000 amas from the corner, 2,000 amas, because then you lose out the corners. You bring a square which is 2,000 amas by 2,000 amas, and then you put it, the corner inside to that corner, and now you've filled off the corners, and you do that on all four sides. And now you have the city, which is round, which is squared off, and you have the tchum, which is 2,000 amas in each direction, squared off. So now you have, this is the area, the city, round city, it's squared, and the tchum, which is now squared off. Nimsa ir mistaker arba meyas amas lakan va'arba amas meyas amas lakan. So now the city, which was round, when you squared it off, you have 400 amas that you've gained in each of the corners, because the diameter is 2,000 amas here. The alach sign is 1.4. So therefore, if you have the alach sign from one end to the other. If it's 2,000 amas diameter from one end to the other, from one corner to the other corner, it's 1.4. That means there's 400 amas extra here, 400 amas extra in this corner. A total of, then you have arba amas me'es amas lakan, arba me'es amas lakan. 400 to here and 400 here. You have 800. So therefore, in all of the corners, you from each direction, you're going to have from one end to the other, from one part of the circle to the corner is 400. There's 400 amas in each of these corners. And now it comes out over here when you measure the tchum of 2,000 amas. Well, it's 2,000 amas in this direction. But from the alach sign, it's 1.4. So it's an extra 800 amas from the corner over here, from the squared off city from the corner in this direction. It's an extra 800. Straight, it's 2,000. On a diagonal to the corner, it's 800. And it's 800 in each of the corners. 800 amas to this direction. Because in each way is 2,000 amas. But to the corners, from corner to corner, it's 1.4, it's 2,800. So it comes out, therefore, that when you had this round circle, the city was round, you squared it off, so you had an extra 400 amas to the corner. The circle is here, but to the corner is an extra 400 amas. And then when you squared off the tchum, you have an extra 800. That's 1,200 in this direction, 1,200 in this, and 1,200 here, and 1,200 there. And like we said before, this example we're talking, where the city itself had a diameter of 2,000 amas, then that's where you have the 400 and the 800 in a city that to begin with was 2,000 amas. That was the diameter. Then when you squared off the city, then you have 1.4 extra in each direction. So therefore, it's 2,000 amas diameter. That means it's 2,800 from corner to corner. That means 400 in each corner. And when you square it off the tchum, it's 2,000 amas straight line. And diagonal, it's 1 times 1.4 is an extra 800. So it's 1,200 here, 1,200 here, 1,200 here, and here. That's, you gain all that extra space for the tchum when you squared off the city and then squared off the tchum. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. The Gemara is going to discuss now about the Arei Levim. In the Arei Levim, they were given a tchum also. We learn now tchumim from Arei Levim. Arei Levim were given tchum, and as we'll see in the Gemara, there was a tchum of 2,000 amas, so it's similar. The tchumei Shabbos and Arei Levim have similarities. But in Arei Levim, as we'll learn out now, it was a total of 2,000 amas of tchum, but there was 1,000 amas of it, which was a migrash, was an open area that couldn't be planted. So Tanya, Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi, tchum Arei Levim alpayim ama. The tchum is 2,000 amas, so that's the tchum of the city. Tzei mehem elef ama migrash. 1,000 amas surrounding the city was a migrash, was an open area which couldn't be planted. Nimsa migrash revia. So it comes out that the migrash is a quarter of the total. Now this is what the Gemara will now shortly attempt to calculate. How is it that the migrash is a quarter? So that the Gemara will discuss it. But first, we're looking for the makor, for the sources for the Arei Levim, that this is in fact how the cities were. So we say Nimsa migrash revia. It's a quarter. Vashar Sadas a krumim, and the remainder was fields and orchards. Menani mili, how do we know this? Amar Ravad, Amar Kra, the pasuk says Mekira ir v'chutza elef amasavid. So it says the tchum Arei Levim are alpaima, but it says the Mekira ir v'chutza. It says from the wall of the city outward was a elef amasavid, 1,000 amas was around it. So therefore, you learn out 1,000 amas is migrash. The rest of it is Sadas Ukramim. Amratayra Savev Esair Be'elav. Surround the city with 1,000 amas of Migrash. So Nimsa Migrash Ravia, it comes out that the open area is going to be a quarter. What do you mean, Ravia? It's a polygon. If there's a 2,000 amas tchum, 1,000 is the Migrash, so it's half. It's 50%. It's half. Why is it a quarter? Amarava Bar Adam Sucharas believe. Rama said, Bar Ada, the surveyor, explained it to me. If the city itself is 2,000 by 2,000, so the city is 2,000. That's the city itself. It's 2,000 amas by 2,000 amas. This is your starting point. It's 2,000 by 2,000. So therefore, Tchum Havahama Shitzer. What's the Tchum area? The Tchum area is 16. So if you have the city is 2,000 by 2,000, now you have a Tchum, you're adding on 2,000 amas in each direction. So this is 2,000 by 2,000. So this is 4,000, 4 million, 2,000 by 4 million square amas. So that's 4. This is 2,000 by 2,000. It's another 4 million. 4, 8, 12, 16. So now you have a total of 16 million square amas. So Tchum HaMavashitzer, Kronos KaMavashitzer. Now you're filling it in, the corners, you also have 4 corners. So that's also 2 by 2, 2,000 by 2,000. There's another 4, 8, 12, 16. So therefore, when you total the two together, you have 16 and 16, you have 32. 32 million square amas, that's the entire area surrounding the city. So you take off from it, you subtract 8 for the Tchum area. You subtract 8 from this, which is the Migrash. Why is the Migrash 8? Because the Migrash, we say it extends out only 1,000. So if you have in each direction, you're extending out the Migrash 1,000, it's 1,000 by 2. Over here, the length over here is the same length. It's 2,000 amas. You're extending out 1,000. So this is 2,000. 2, 4. So remove the, disregard the corners for a second. So you have 2, 4, 6, 8. So the Migrash area, aside from the corners, the Migrash area around the city is 1 by 2, 2,000, and 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. It's total of 8. The Arba Dekronis. Now you also have to take into account the corners. You have to take into account the Migrash that is now by the corners as well. So if the Migrash extends here, so you have to now have this area, if it extends out here, you have to have an area over here that also has a Migrash in the corners. So it's 1,000 by 1,000. So we take the Migrash has to complete, if the Migrash here extends out here, and it extends out 1,000 amas here, so therefore that area that it extends out also is surrounded by a Migrash, because it says Saviv, it's surrounded, so therefore you have to have an area here that also has a Migrash. So you have in the 4 corners 1,000 by 1,000. 1,000 by 1,000 in the 4 corners. If the Migrash extends out here, so therefore you have to have this area over here in the corner, which is also Migrash. So you have another 4,000, 1,000 by 1,000 in the 4 corners. It's another 4 million square amas. So the total is Kamahava Tracer. You have the 12 of surrounding the city, in each direction, surrounding the city in each direction, and then you have in the corners, so you have a total of 12. So nimsa migrish ravia. So therefore, the migrish, the open area, is a quarter. So fracting more. What do you mean? Nimsa migrish ravia. It's more than a third. If you have over here we're saying that it's 32 million square amas, and if you say that the corners, that the migrish rather, including the tchum and the corners, is a total of 12, well, 12 out of 32, it's more than a third. So what do you mean a quarter? So the more answer is, I say arba damasa v'shadalayu. Yeah, but when we say it's a quarter, we mean to also take into account the city. Now the city is 2,000 by 2,000, so you have to add on to the total amount, the total area. You're adding the size of the city, which was 2,000 by 2,000, which is another 4 million. So it's not 12 out of 32; it's 12 out of 36, because you have to add on that 4 to the total. Still, it's 12 out of 36, which is a third, it's not a quarter. The more answers me. Now, when we say that migrish surrounds the city, we don't mean that it surrounds it in a square. You've calculated that the migrish is a square. When we say that the migrish surrounds the city, we're talking about it surrounds the city in a circle. We're talking about a city that is in a circle. And the migrish is 1,000 amas that surrounds the city. So it's not the way you've calculated it, that with the square. Yes, we square it off when we do the tchumim, but the migrish is not squared off. He holds that even though the tchumim, you square it off first and you calculate it in squares, but the migrish surrounds the city in its natural form. The city is a circle. The migrish surrounds it with a circle, so 1,000 amas around the city. Bigula kama. So kama maruba yesra eagle. How much is the square greater than the circle? Ravin. So now we've calculated that the migrish, based on a square, we calculated to be 12. Well, if we now say it's not a square, it's a circle, what's the difference between them? It's a quarter. So therefore, dal ravia minayu, subtract a quarter from 12, pashul tisha. If you subtract a quarter from 12, you have 9. The total area we calculate is 36. The migrish, when it was square, was 12. Now we're saying it's a circle, reduce it by a quarter, it's 9. 9 into 36, that is a quarter. That's how you come to the quarter, 9 out of 36.